There have been many different types of genres, from horror to action, but one that opens the door to aspects of all of them is adventure. Adventure stories have been merged with aspects of other genres for years, but what intrigues me the most about it is that all of the protagonists of adventure movies go through this hodgepodge of different adventures, whether it be terrifying or explosives riddled, with relatively little psychological damage, and I think we should be a little more considerate and realize that most of these adventurers we adore might need some more emotional and mental support. Like the fine fella known as Nathan Drake. That guy had 4 whole games of PTSD-inducing nightmares. He doesn't need a treasure or a mystic statue. He needs a therapist and an Adventurers Anonymous AA support group. His life is perpetually full of explosions. It's like his lifeline has an acne outbreak, but instead it's an acme outbreak. I'm surprised that the man can pull a beer out of the fridge without it becoming a Molotov right then and there. He also has a tendency to always be jumping off stuff whenever there's some sort of drop. If there is a down, you can bet money that he's going for it. Like, if he was Obi-Wan Kenobi and had the high ground, you know his ass would just jump into the lava for the sake of it. But for all that gravitational idiocy, it seems to be working out cause he keeps freaking finding all the lost cities. What are the chances that one guy with the volatility of nitroglycerin would find everything short of Atlantis? Wait, he didn't actually find Atlantis, did he? How the hell did he not find it? He found every other hidden city and he never found Atlantis? What the hell? A man with that level of misfortune should never go outside without full-level body armor and a minigun. Instead, he leaves with a pair of jeans and a grappling hook. What a freaking arsenal for the victor to have as they walk over the corpses of billions of dollars of weapons. If I were him, I would stay the hell away from trains or any other form of transportation. Cars, planes, boats, trains, every single one of them has tried to kill him. Just get a Fitbit and take a walk. At least you'll stay in one piece. And then there's the OG video game explorer, the British Lara Croft, as opposed to the non-British Lara Croft. What the hell was I thinking? She's had decades of trauma to work through. The games could just be from the perspective of her talking to her psychiatrist. And she goes into all of this with a bow and arrow, sometimes dual-wield pistols, but still a little underwhelmed. At least Nathan Drake can pick up rocket launchers and miniguns. Lara Croft has Hawkeye disease, where she thinks a 1,000-year-old weapon is applicable to any circumstance. It's like a hipster armory. Why on earth does she even need to find all these treasures? She's already filthy rich and even has a mansion. Is it for the righteousness of discovering the truth? Because it always ends up with cataclysm, so I think ethically it would be better if she just stayed home. Just stay socially distanced from everything. It's like every time she steps outdoors to do the greater good of finding a lost treasure, she gets swarmed by tigers or causes the apocalypse. She and Nathan Drake should just get into VR to experience the world from home. Arguably, that would cause so much less conflict, it would award a Nobel Peace Prize. Just like Nathan Drake, Lara Croft seems to have really bad luck with planes. If I worked for the TSA, I would just ban them from even looking at an airplane. Just the idea would be borderline dangerous. She's been a terror to society since she was polygonal. Indiana Jones, Nathan Drake, they all follow in her footsteps. It's like copycat killers, except they're copycat catastrophes. Although they do kill a lot of people in the process. Speaking of the old Indiana Jones, I feel like he has numerous instances where it would have been safer and better for his health if he had just stayed home, and a 4th movie where it would have been better for the audience's health to stay at home. And they're making even more films. At this rate, I don't know what will deteriorate faster, the Rotten Tomatoes score, Harrison Ford, or my awakeness in the theater. In fact, if the shutdown of theaters is good for anything, it would be the absence of needing to see Indy 5 for a few more months. Or years. Geez, I just realized no adventurer goes into battle with proper armaments. Really, Indiana Jones? A whip? You decide to go against literal Nazis with a whip. And it worked? The Manhattan Project had the brightest minds, making the most destructive weapon, but they could have just used a leather rope. Good to know. Although, if you live in a world where the Manhattan Project's efforts can just be undone with a lead-lined fridge, then I would wager that a whip might not be the worst decision. Clearly, they have no idea how to make any other weapon effective. Not even alien technology is useful. And also, aliens? Really, aliens? I just can't. I'm still getting over the fact that a movie franchise about Nazis and the occasional magical artifact suddenly has the aliens for Mars attacks. And even if he didn't need to have dealt with those aliens, he still has to fight Nazis, literal Nazis. How the hell did the Nazi Reich commit such heinous crimes, yet be stunted by a man in a fedora? And that's coming from me. TLDR, every adventurer needs to go to therapy. They should just sit down, vent their personal issues, and come to a healthy conclusion rather than leaping into a hellish abomination of events. I mean, every one of them seems to have the same set of parent issues. Either their mother or father or both have just died or disappeared, and the kids think they need to follow that up. My response is, you don't need to pressure yourself to finish your parents' unfinished business. Live your own life. And if it's a matter of adrenaline, go to a theme park, ride a roller coaster, play some horror games, go to Vegas. I mean, there's so many opportunities to do something thrilling without it being literal suicide. Do they have wealth anxiety, the opposite of affluenza? It can't be, because, as I said, Lara Croft is super rich, plus Indiana donates what he finds to a museum, and Nathan got rich after the first game. Then he goes on another adventure. And the final therapeutic topic they should focus on is trust in others. Every single person has been betrayed or backstabbed or anything like that, usually by people who were set up as a romantic interest, because that's how all scripts are written apparently. It's absurd just how lucky they are. Their therapist would probably just be more amazed at that than they would be about the actual diagnosis. I mean, how is it possible that these adventurers aren't dead or in a coma at this point? I mean, a mathematician must be ripping their hair out, trying to believe the probability of what they go through on a day-to-day basis. They could go on a Powerball and get a knighthood out of it somehow. It could be really funny if they just had anticlimactic deaths, if probability suddenly became normal for them and they just got hit by a car or succumbed to the tetanus from all the times they get stabbed or fall onto rusty metal. They are the goddamn avatars of chaos theory. They might as well be called the entropy extroverts. Every time they take a step, it might as well be Murphy's Law incarnate. I personally feel a danger anytime I play the games. Is this a secret Final Destination game universe? I bet it's secretly hell. That could be the only reason. No matter what they go through, they always get dragged back into conflict. How many times do they get relaxed only to get dragged back into the life? They're definitely in hell. But if they're not, they should hit the casinos with that luck. They bank billions. Just bet the Statue of El Dorado and see if the casino could even pay up. You would probably just own the casino at that point. Something I thought of while writing this script was, what if they weren't that lucky and just nothing happened? They would go on an adventure and just wander around a jungle for hours with nothing to show for it. It would certainly make for some very short movies. The person would be assigned their task from the military man or the thief who will eventually betray them or whoever else, only to have the credits roll 5 minutes later. It would be more realistic, I'd give it that. I wouldn't feel so insecure comparing myself to Nathan Drake if he just didn't do anything. It would make me feel a lot better about taking so long to write these scripts. It would drive the audience to have much more reasonable life goals, rather than assume they could fight an army or destroy a hidden city all in one day, when instead they should be GTFOing out of there. It would also stop kids from thinking they can do anything super dangerous. There's a bunch of kids that must want to be like Indiana Jones, and then they just go and fight Nazis and get hurt. Although if they live in America, they wouldn't have to go that far to get to Nazis. I think it would be best for these guys if they just chill sometimes, like in a lazy river. Go to Six Flags or take an inflatable donut to the lazy river. Have a nice, relaxing time chilling out and kicking the breeze. Adventurers just need to have a break, or else they'll be addicted to the rush, and any ineffective drug PSA in school can tell you how addiction will only lead you down a dark path. So the next time you go to the lost city of Atlantis with an army on your ass, and believe you can solve the world's problems, maybe just go home. Go home. Now, go home.